The Good Nurse is the new Netflix movie that stars Jessica Chastain and Eddie Redmayne, and I'm very excited to give you guys my review for this movie. If you've seen it, be sure to leave a comment of what you thought about it. As well, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Now let's get into this review. So The Good Nurse is based off a true story of a nurse, Charlie Cullen, played by Eddie Redmayne, who was killing his patients. Now, I thought this movie was actually quite good. It's a Netflix movie, and I think this is a win for Netflix because usually they don't have the best movies in my opinion. But this one I thought was quite good. The best part of this movie easily was the performances from the two leads, Eddie Redmayne and Jessica Chastain. I thought they're both fantastic in their roles, and they definitely both carried this movie a lot, especially Jessica Chastain. I thought she was the best part overall, as she was the lead. She did a really good job conveying like what's going on in her life as the character, because not only is she like a nurse who had a lot to do with uncovering the fact that Eddie Redmayne's character was killing his patients, there's a lot of stuff going on in her personal life, and I thought her performance pulled it off really well. Eddie Redmayne as well was great in his role, especially towards the later half of the movie. There's definitely more emotional parts for his character, and I thought he handled the scenes very well. I'm a big fan of both these actors. I think they're both great, and in this, they were great. In the movie, I think overall, like, the story's quite interesting. I've heard of situations like this happening before, but I didn't know about this exact one. So it was interesting to find out how this person was killing the patients, and it was interesting. You don't get to find out why he was doing it, but that's because in real life he never explained why he was doing it. But still, like, how he was doing it was really cool. It kind of, the way the movie sort of handled, like, sort of like the feel of the movie, I thought helped it a lot too. It's got this slightly eerie, almost like a little creepy, especially when you know, like, going into this, you know, like, I read over what the general synopsis of the movie was. I knew who it was that was killing, and they don't really hide it very much because it's based on a true story. And it's, when you see what that person's like, it sort of makes it kind of creepy, because he comes across as a very nice, caring person. So it does have a certain level of creepiness. It's not a very creepy movie, but to me I felt a certain level of creepiness, which I quite enjoyed. There's also a very interesting plot with the two detectives, where they're trying to figure out, okay, was this first patient who was killed, were they murdered? And they later find out, okay, they had a lot of, what was insulin, I think it was, added into their system that wasn't needed, and that's what led to their death. And it was surprising how unhelpful the hospital was being, just being late to give them the information, not giving them enough information, hiding some stuff, it seemed. And they try to do some investigation into this. When they start narrowing it down to Charlie Cullen, they start to do investigation into his past, go try and talk to hospitals from other hospitals that he's worked at, and they won't talk to them about him. All that I thought was really just interesting, and everything to do with performances I thought was really good. And like I said, the story I think is really good as well, and I did quite enjoy this movie. But for me, what did hold this movie down a little bit was the pace. It's a slower paced movie, and while I was never actually bored, it affected the way I felt with the tension in this movie, or lack of it, should I say, in this movie, where, like, you know, people are gonna die, and they sort of have a bit of a mystery in how it's happening. I don't know, for me, I just didn't feel this tension, like, okay, how is this happening or something, and I didn't know. But I think because the movie was slower paced, it didn't have that tension where you're really concerned or something like that. Also, when it came to the side with the detectives, when they're trying to figure out what's going on, and they keep hitting all these obstacles with the hospitals being slow to give them information and just not really being all that helpful, it just, I don't know, I was expecting with all that to feel more urgency with trying to figure out what was going on. And again, it's because of that slower pace that it didn't come across, especially once the second patient died and they could actually, do an autopsy and stuff. I don't know, I felt like there should have been more urgency, the feel of urgency to get this figured out. But again, because it was a slower paced movie, it just didn't feel urgent because the movie's moving slowly. If it was moving faster, or at least it started to move faster, maybe it would have helped convey that sense of urgency. Like, okay, we gotta figure out who's doing this and how they're doing it. Whereas, like, that's part of it. Like, they pretty much, like, essentially, like, say stuff like that. But it just doesn't feel like that. Same with the tension, because it's a slower pace. I'm like, yeah, okay, someone's about to die, I don't know how, but it's not like, okay, someone's about to die, don't know how. That sort of thing, if that makes sense. That's pretty much my biggest issue with this movie. And it doesn't take away a whole lot, because I do still quite enjoy this. For me, that would have, if those aspects were here, for me, it may have bumped this movie from a good movie to a great movie. But either way, I'm happy that this was just a good movie because it's a Netflix movie. I think this is a win for them. The performances are fantastic. The overall story is interesting and is good. Just didn't feel that sense of tension or urgency to figure out what is going on. Other people might feel differently. If you do, let me know. For me, I'm going to give The Good Nurse a 75%. I did quite enjoy this movie, and I definitely recommend checking it out. And again, if you've seen it, let me know what you thought about it as well. Be sure to stay tuned for some more reviews coming very soon. As well, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And until my next video, take care, everybody.